the future and purpose is different based on how strong you define your purpose. So if we want to forge our future, we have to define our purpose.
Welcome to another episode of Forging the Future, and I'm here today with Joey Sanchez, who is the Senior Director of Ecosystems at the ION. Thanks for being here, Joey.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about how you got started building the ecosystem and the innovation community here in Houston.
Yeah, no, that's, thank you for having me. Thank you for asking that question. You know, I've been selling the city of Houston essentially for over 9 years. Started at the Greater Houston Partnership after my oil and gas career was cut short in 2014, and that was a downturn, as Houstonians know.
A spark for a lot of innovation. A lot of startups are created in the downturns.
Exactly,
right? You know,
exactly.
There's no more like, maybe I should quit my job, maybe I shouldn't. Like, oh, maybe I need to do something now, right?
Yeah, and that's that was my opportunity to find my passion for the city. And I got to see the city at the 50,000 foot view at the Greater Houston Partnership. But then I also got to see the innovation ecosystem being built with John Nordby and Houston Exponential. So as soon as a job opened up at Houston Exponential, I jumped on it.
Oh, great.
And HX was really that moment where I got to see the innovation, the startup ecosystem front and center from the grassroots. And
well, there wasn't much before that, right?
so speaking in ecosystem terms, yeah, I would probably say it was a small garden at that moment. And now I think it's turned into a large forest of innovation and tech all over the city.
Yeah. I mean, 35 years ago when I started, there was the Society of Retired Engineers. So it was like, well, that's great from a business standpoint, but those guys didn't know anything about tech. They'd already retired. Right?
Yeah. And so you built the elements of the ecosystem. And I feel like now we have this just massive momentum that's happening. We're almost at the moment, at the movement, but definitely the momentum's here. And that's about a year ago, almost exactly, I joined the ION after Houston Exponential, and that's where I am today. But really, it all kind of clicked for me when my brother and my best friend, they moved away from Houston for tech back in about 2012.
And where did they go?
They went to Seattle. They went to Boston. So my brother, my best friend, they wanted to be amongst tech ecosystems and tech companies, and
decided nothing was here, and
well, I mean,
they bailed.
Yeah, and so I wanted to dig in and find out why, and so that's where I dove in head first, and I've uncovered the why,
right? And
now I know how to fix it. I think we are fixing it together.
And there's a Y on your hat. Why is that?
We'll get into that because I've created something out of the pandemic. Pandemic was hard for me. I'm a extrovert by birth, and I needed to see people, and so I wanted to create a coffee happy hour for innovative ideas.
Okay,
and I wanted to meet in person after being separated and socially distant. And so we came up with the name, and it just happened to stick with me because my name is Joey and it's a coffee meetup. So we called it Cup of Joey. And that's why the Y is on my hat. And the difference between a cup of Joe and a cup of Joey, it's the Y.
The Y. Why? What's the why of each startup and founder? Right?
Absolutely. What is the purpose? Your why is your purpose, and your why is your future.
Right.
So that's been something I've been refining over the last 73 weeks.
Okay.
Yep.
You've been counting them?
Every week we meet up. So
well, I don't think I was there for week number 1, but it has been amazing to see it go from just a few people having a cup of coffee and learning about each other and what they're doing here in Houston to, I don't know, what was the last one? It looked like 100 people or more.
Hundreds. It's amazing. The I think it is because people are looking for meaningful relationships, and meaningful relationships actually create business.
Right.
They actually create trustworthiness and authenticity. And that's what the secret sauce is, we come together on purpose, and we all are looking to forge the future together.
Right.
See what I did there? Forge the future.
I got it. Thanks for working that in. But then also, it's how do you control that? I mean, you've gotten so popular. In Cup of Joy, you've got hundreds of people coming now, and it's really, taken on a life of its own. And where do you see that going? I mean, where do you want it to be? You want it to be this little get-together of a few people that want to talk about what they're doing in Houston, or how do you make that?
No, this is the topic of the day, honestly. I've been talking about it all day because I have to put intent. It has to be, purposeful on my end.
Right.
And so I had never written down the mission statement or the purpose, and I now have crafted that.
That's ironic, right? What's your why?
Oh man, I tell you what, like I've been asleep for the first 70 weeks. It's I finally woke up, and now it's to create a safe space, a welcoming space for people to explore their purpose and to meet together for the future, for good. So forging the future for good, same thing in my book. And if you look at an ecosystem in the biological sense, everything has its place. And there is no black or white. Everything is, in the gray area. And purpose and the future really are that. The future is going to come at you no matter what.
Right.
Unless you have a purpose, that's the only way you're going to be able to forge the future or change the future for good. And or else the future is just going to take you over, and it's going to dictate where you go, and you're going to be sad at the end of your life. And that's where I now have a future for Cup of Joey because I have a purpose.
Right.
So that's what I've been pondering on all day, and it's actually worked. I think we're going to be at the millions of Cup of Joeyers.
Wow.
And I'm going to ask your help to get there.
Okay.
All right.
No, we're there. Well, I mean, that's one thing I think that we're both trying to do in the community is that it's collaborative, right?
Yeah.
And tide raises all boats. And that's why we did the event at the Ion last year, the chili cook-off.
Oh, yeah.
At
that was
Tech
this year.
Rodeo. Was it this year?
That was February, man.
Okay.
And it's been a long year. We've been working hard.
Yeah. Well, we brought together all the other, the startup development organizations. We had it at the Ion.
Yeah.
We had Greentown Labs. We had new places like Sesh Co-working, and we had Mass Challenge, I think, there. And we had many others. And we all got together and learned more about what we're all doing. Had some fun doing some chili, listening to some music and some rock, and raising some money for Southern Smoke, which was a charity that benefited restaurants that were hard hit during COVID. And that's really how you try to model the behavior. We're not trying to compete and trying to silo. And startups can move from one accelerator to another. They can go through Greentown. They can come to SoftTech. They can go from SoftTech and go into the Ion, right? Of
course.
And everybody has something new to offer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. That event was such a celebration. I actually see it as a mirror of our ecosystem because not only did we have a plethora of organizations and opportunities, but we were having fun while doing it.
Right.
And you couldn't do that 5 years ago here because there wasn't the camaraderie, there wasn't the meaningful relationships.
You couldn't get anybody to show up.
Exactly.
Probably. And so that was the end cap to the Tech Rodeo, right? And was the Tech Rodeo your brainchild? Remind me.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
I'll tell you about it because it's near and dear to my heart. And it goes back to the pandemic again. January 2nd, 2020, my friend Megan Fear and I worked for HX, and we said, we need an event that can gather the Houston innovation ecosystem. Like, how do we bring everybody together? And we wanted to pair it up with something that was uniquely Houston, which we happen to have the world's largest livestock show and rodeo. It's an awesome event.
Massive.
28 days of barbecue and beer and concerts and
Horses.
and bunking broncos. Like,
Right.
yeah, what more Texan can you get? But they're talking about the past. They're celebrating our past, our heritage. And we said, what if we created an event that celebrated our future? And that's where Houston Tech Rodeo came about, to wrangle the wild ideas, to, spur connections and, pun here, pun there. And so, mind you, January 2nd is when we came up with the idea, and we executed it February 27th through March 3rd of 2020.
And that was is that right after the rodeo? I can't remember the timing.
It was
during.
It was.
I know the second time was during. The first time.
So it was during the rodeo, and it's meant to start the day after the chili cook-off, the World Championship. Oh, sorry, barbecue cook-off. Sorry, it's meant to start the day after the World Championship barbecue cook-off, and the day before the actual rodeo starts, and that's when Tech Rodeo belongs. And so when that happens, we could marry the future and the past of Houston together and create a massive festival of tech and innovation, of STEM, corporates, while celebrating uniquely Houston things.
Right.
And that's the goal of Houston Tech Rodeo. And man, we hit it the first year, 2,000 attendees, 35 events, and then the world shut down literally 3 days after.
Wow. It's like the last event in Houston.
It was and that's what we got.
And the rodeo got shut down.
And the rodeo got shut down. And so that was, everybody went home and they didn't come back out for another 6 months. And until the next Tech Rodeo, which we put together virtually and then some in person because the mask ban was lifted. And in Texas, we took that to heart. So we all got back together, and that was the first Cup of Joey. Was the first event back on the second Tech Rodeo.
Wow.
So this is all intertwined, and it is all purposeful. It's all, to build a better community.
Right.
One meaningful relationship at a time.
Which makes sense given the amount of tech in Texas. I was always
I like that.
Confused why there wasn't more of an ecosystem. Because when you look at companies that were pioneers in the tech space, like Texas Instruments, right, creating the first chips and semiconductors and calculators, or you have Compaq that started here, the first PC outside of the IBM, created the whole clone industry, right? And I could go on and on. But between Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin, just that triangular or even quad region actually makes a triangle. But
it does make a pretty good triangle.
But it's just amazing what's here. And the ecosystem should be here. Right?
Oh, yeah.
To get that startup going, instead of saying, well, the tech comes out and then everyone hops over to, somewhere else.
Sure.
Right? And we really want them to stay here and build things here. And now even the bigger companies are coming back.
Right? Oh, yeah.
So,
and I see that.
The Texodus.
The Texodus. the everyone is coming home. And that's kind of my goal, and personally,
right,
is to see, my brother and best friend come back.
Right.
But we have to build something awesome for them. And it's personal to me. And I believe in the Texas, idea as well. I actually think by 2036, that's a big day, big year. It's the 200th birthday of Texas.
Okay.
So in 1936, our 100th birthday, Texas rebranded.
They did?
They did. They went from a southern plantation state like Mississippi or Alabama, and they said, hey, we should become the cowboy western state. And boy, did that stick.
I guess so.
We're still celebrating the cowboy, lifestyle.
Well, people think we ride horses and have six packs on our side, on our hips, and cowboy hats all the time. But,
but now it's time to rebrand again in 2036, and I think we have a chance to become the Space Cowboy State. You've got the billionaires flying off of Texas. Branson's,
they're all here. Branson doesn't have it here.
He's in New Mexico, but that's
we have
11
Musk
miles.
and Bezos all in Texas.
Yeah,
so.
we can annex Branson's area. But this is that's inspirational.
Well, we have his first spaceport. Well, Musk is building Space City. We have spaceport here in Houston. I mean, it's not even that brand new. Several years already, right? That they've been working on this down at Edwards.
Yeah, and Ellington Space Field.
Ellington,
and
not Edwards.
And I was just at Johnson Space Center last week, and I got to see the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, and I was in Mission Control. And if you want to inspire the world, that's the industry to talk about. If you want to inspire the next generation to come to Houston, JFK's "We Will Go to the Moon" speech was 60 years ago this year at Rice University.
Right here in Texas, in Houston.
Not because it was easy, because it was hard, right? And the other things. And
I started my career actually as a co-op at IBM down at NASA. So,
really?
Yeah, I was down there for 2.5 years during the shuttle days.
Oh.
So it was fantastic. I was prototyping things like the space workstation, and I was a college intern essentially. So it was a great learning environment. And it was right when the IBM PC first came out.
Golly, I could only imagine being in that position, like the inspiration that it filled you with to, progress in your career. Like, we need to do that more. That's what Tech Rodeo is all about. It was making that Space Cowboy moniker so that we can inspire the future.
Of course, back then, everyone thought I was crazy for quitting IBM because that was the gold standard of businesses, right? And they're like, what are you doing? But I decided to take the red pill. Sometimes you decide to take it. Sometimes you're forced to take it, right? So in your case, you were, forced to take that and decided to take it rather than just going into another corporate job. Yeah. I mean, do you remember that moment when you decided, okay, I don't know where you're at, but your role there ended and now you need to decide what's next? Yeah. And why did you take the red pill instead of the blue pill?
It was a personal choice. It was on purpose. Like, my purpose in life is to connect people to a more fulfilling future. And at my energy job, I was in accounts receivable.
Okay. All right. I would not have guessed that.
I was not aligned.
How did an extrovert end up in accounts receivable?
Well, that's a longer story that I could tell you later. But this is, I found myself at Greater Houston Partnership. And, at that same moment, I was working on a side project called the Blue Tile Project.
Oh, right.
And that's a historical street sign that is around the city. And I took 1 photo, 2 photos, and 500 photos later, I was like, I should put this on a map and share it on Instagram and Facebook and see what happens.
These are white and blue mosaic tiles that they would put on the curb for the street names?
Street names, and they would spell out, there's a whole alphabet. And so I created bluetileproject.com, and I was rocking and rolling.
So you were already an entrepreneur.
Oh, but I was an entrepreneur in Houston in 2015, which is not an easy thing, as you just stated, because I didn't know how to get legal help. I didn't know how to set up my tax structure or my business LLC. I was on my own.
People used to ask me, well, you must know all kinds of other business owners and entrepreneurs. And I'm like, I don't know anybody. I mean, back then, because first of all, I had my head down working. Second of all, there's nowhere else to go. There was no Cup of Joey.
No, right? and we're so spread out. Like, the geographic region is so, like, if I'm from Sugar Land and you're from the Woodlands, we're not going to meet. Actually, hell, that's how my wife and I were. She's from Humble, I'm from Sugar Land, but we met in Florida because we would never met here. Yeah. So the geographic region does cause a challenge. And so we had to create density. And so density has been the key to solving this challenge. And so that's where we're at today.
Are you from Texas?
Yeah. Grew up in Sugar Land.
Okay. So that explains the Go Texas. I mean, I got here as fast as I could.
Where are you from?
I'm from all over. I was actually originally born in Minneapolis.
Where's your family from?
Yeah, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Midwest.
Okay. Nice.
Then we moved around a lot. I lived in Texas. I lived in Utah. I lived in California. I lived in Marin County outside San Francisco before it was expensive.
Oh, wow.
I think my dad still regrets selling his home there for $60K, so. And then back to Minnesota and then off to Florida. Yeah. And then we came here in 1981 to go to school.
That's awesome. Where did you go to school?
I applied to Rice and they turned me down.
Oh man, what?
I want to think it's because I was I applied like a month before the semester started.
That might be a good reason.
We'll leave it
stick
there. But I got a full scholarship at U of H. Actually, I think my aunt actually applied for me at U of H because she lived here. So it was an opportunity for me to come and get out on, basically get out on my own more or less, and stay with my aunt and go to school. And they covered my full tuition for electrical engineering.
Nice. So Houston's lucky to have you.
Well,
like
see, I did eventually, after going to night school for a number of years, finally dropped out because that's what you have to be you have to drop out of college to be a successful entrepreneur, right?
Is that the truth? I don't know.
Isn't that's how Jobs did it? And
I've come up with a very simple equation on how to be a good entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
It's deliver on your promise.
Okay.
I don't know.
That works for business too, by the way.
That business, entrepreneurship.
Do what you said, when you said, or how much you said, and it turns out they come back time and time again. That's our mantra.
Drop mic, game over. Well, that's it. Like if you can deliver on what you promise and they want what you want and what you're giving, guess what? You're going to make money.
Secret sauce. It's a low bar, but a high bar. So, well, I know the community in Houston is growing. There's a lot of momentum. Is there anything else that really needs to happen?
That's a good question.
Needs attention, or
so the density was a challenge. All right, and so we had to focus our efforts inside the city on one area, which downtown Midtown Medical Center seemed like a good landing spot for that. And now we've got this momentum that's happening. What else do we need? We need more innovative people. We need more action-oriented people. People that are willing to take the risk, the ones that want to, become the startup or become the investor, because those are risky jobs. Right. Like it's not as simple as just a corporate job. So we need more people that are willing and understand the risks, and are also given the resources to do it well. Because you're not going to get the masses to flip the switch if you don't have the resources behind them, or the dev shops, or the tech talent, out in the open.
Right.
So that's really where we're at. We need to have that kind of concentration of resources.
Right. Well, speaking of Rice.
Yes.
And Rice, of course, is behind the Ion, right?
Absolutely.
That district.
Yeah.
And tell me about Rice's support of the innovation ecosystem and the district there in Houston. What are they trying to accomplish there? Yeah,
it's not something new. That's something that has been around for over 60 years. The land that Johnson Space Center is on was transacted through Rice University.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that.
And so they have been at the forefront of innovation in Houston since the beginning.
Wow.
And this is just another step in the direction of the future for them. They've owned this land in middle of Midtown Houston since 1900.
Really?
And they leased it to the Sears building and to the Fiesta. And in about 2015, 2017, they decided, let's do something with this to make the city even greater than it already is. The city has given so much to Rice University. Let's get outside of the hedges and make the city a better place to innovate.
Right.
And so the Ion District is a 16-acre district that's 300,000 square foot right now, and is going to 3 million square feet in the next 10 to 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And so we are looking for that concentration of resources so that people know all across the world where to go to innovate, and that's Houston.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also one of Houston's strengths, is this whole really reusing spaces, not just gentrification, but, we don't have areas that end up every city has areas that could be doing better. But if you take where Ion is right now, like you said, it used to be the old Sears building. Yep. Actually, my mother-in-law worked there at Sears back in the day. So I always I feel her presence every time I go there, wow, it's really really kind of neat. And then so Sears became the Ion, Fiesta became Greentown Labs, right? And then there's a plan to build out that whole area and make it more the startup corridor, this corridor along the whole rail line that connects Rice University and some of the other areas in Houston.
Yeah.
Right. So
no, it's a great plan. That's why I believe in it. It aligns with my purpose. So I feel very connected to it, and it does have a better future in mind for the city. And so I love that it used to be a Sears building, and Sears was innovative.
Right.
They had a Sears catalog that you could buy a house from your house, right? But in 1997, they sunsetted that Sears catalog. And in 1998, a small company was created called Amazon that disrupted their entire industry.
Well, it just goes to show you that it's innovate or die.
Innovate or die.
So they innovated, lasted 100 years or more, and then failed to innovate. And unfortunately,
in 2017, they went bankrupt and they vacated that location. That happened to be the same year Amazon did their city search for headquarters too. And they said no to Houston, top 20 list, which that was a wake up call. And so if you're looking at the history timeline of Houston, 2017 is the moment. It's also when the Astros won the World Series. But since 2017, I say it's safe to say that we've been on a wild ride going straight up and to the right. And everybody's on that roller coaster because we are trying to build something beautiful here together.
Yeah. I like the name the Ion. I like different puzzles and wordplay and everything. And it's not immediately obvious, right, why it's called the Ion.
Okay. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, I think it shows up in some of the media, right?
Yep.
Or it's about innovation, the Ion at the end, or the sun at the end. And you have a whole list of words. Collaboration, innovation.
Motion, even.
Motion, okay.
And I'll add this. It's I accidentally looked up the definition of ion, and it meant a fusing of two bonds. And it just so happens that Cup of Joey is at the Ion now, and that's essentially what we're trying to do is fuse two people together in a meaningful relationship.
Yeah, that's a nice way to think about it too.
Yeah,
that's great. So at Rice and at the Ion, there's different parts of the ecosystem that need to come together. You have government, you have corporate, you have funding, right? And all of that has to be in place, right?
Absolutely. And so,
and you need the startups.
Well, the startups are at the center of it. The founder is per se of that ecosystem, and the funding is coming. In 2016, Houston had about $256 million in venture capital coming through Houston. In 2021, we were at $2.3 billion.
Wow!
And so I mentioned momentum. That's where it's at. Corporations, they notice the need for open innovation and utilizing the community's, collective thought. And so they've shown up to the Ion in a big, big way. Government, we just hosted Metro and their Connect Smart app launch for connecting Houston, which is really cool that they chose the Ion for that, because I told you the geographic sprawl and the physical infrastructure of the city. And now we're trying to be more efficient and smart about connections. So this all matters. And but what really matters is each individual person. The entities are great, but Chris matters. If Chris leaves Houston, we lose all of your experience. We lose all of your expertise. And so we're doing everything in our being in order to keep the right talent here.
Is there any, or are there any particular advantages of being a startup in Houston?
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Even like to our friends to the West in Austin and Dallas don't have the access to corporate customer base who also have strategic partnerships. If you want to scale your company, look at Halliburton Labs. They just had their demo day this past week. That's scaling energy tech globally, utilizing the Halliburton resources and back office. You don't have that in Austin. And I love Austin. It's a great place to visit.
Yeah.
But if you want to scale, grow, and become, global, why not come to the most diverse city in the country?
Right.
This is really the spot. We just don't happen to have the nicest rivers or mountains, but we have the best people.
Right.
So
it was interesting because the Venture Houston event wasn't too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
There was an Austin VC there, and Austin's always had a little bit more of the reputation for the VC and startup ecosystem than Houston has had, and we're trying to change that, right?
Sure.
And he made a comment. I was talking to him at Venture Houston, and he said, well, we couldn't have gotten this kind of attendance to a venture event like this in Austin.
No way.
Which surprised me because I thought, really?
I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I thought that was an unusual take. I guess from his point there is a lot more going on here, a lot more interest, a lot more people involved than in Austin's a relatively small city, but still it's more of say a VC networking and some it's known for some of that, but Houston really is on the up and up.
Well, I'll try to dissect that in the fact that we have quadrupled the size of amount of people here.
In Houston, you mean in general?
Houston than Austin. Our economy is the size of the whole country of Belgium.
Right.
Austin can't, not yet. They'll get there. And honestly, I just think the collaborative spirit and the industries that we host here has bred the type of people that we have. So aerospace, energy, medical, those are life and death situations. They're not, the next grilled cheese app, right? So that's the difference.
Is there a grilled cheese app?
Probably. It's probably in Austin. I'm not, but, and not to say that it isn't needed. It's just a different stake in life. It's a little bit more of a serious town than a weird town, and that's okay because we have these industries that we built over the last 100 years in the city, which curates a certain type of person.
Right.
A little more engineered mindset. I would say creative is here as well, but you will find more creativity in Austin. But that being said, I am a Texan, at heart, and I think GQ said it perfectly. Like Austin's the little brother, Dallas is that middle brother, and then Houston's that older brother that's got some miles on him that knows what's cool but doesn't have to say it.
I hadn't seen that. Where was that? It was a recent article?
No, this
goes back
2016 GQ magazine. Kind of, man, it spoke to my soul because we're not boastful here. We're not the coolest kid on the block, but we sure as hell know what we're doing.
Right.
And the world's better for it.
One thing that I think is always interesting is how collisions happen.
Yeah.
And some opportunities take place in really unusual locations, right? And I think Cup of Joey also is, of course, a very straightforward place to go to if you want some of these collisions to happen, right? But remind me how we met originally.
Yeah, for sure. So it was through Houston Tech Rodeo. We were working together. I met Joel first from Soft Tech, and he had a crazy idea to do a deep fake event. Bring in some sponsors that had the technology and partner with Soft Tech to host a theater in downtown Houston for a deep fake event because we wanted to showcase this Wrangling, the wild ideas, right?
Right.
And so that was the first opportunity where we met and got to explore how we could collaborate together. And we're an event-driven city. That's where you're going to meet people like Venture Houston. And there's a reason because of that. Our city is so large. You're not going to run into somebody over and over in the city because we're all in our cars driving to our events or to our meetings or offices or homes.
Or restaurants.
Or restaurants, for
I
sure.
heard that Houstonians go out to eat more than any other city.
I can attest
on a
to
weekly
this.
basis. Yeah.
Well, it's because our food scene is so damn good.
Yeah, it's true.
But no, I think that's actually a really cool place to meet people, but that's not the intention of the restaurant. The reason why Cup of Joey's worked in Houston is because it's created intention for collisions, for serendipity. And so people think it's random when it's actually engineered. There's not many spots in Houston where these random collisions and connections can happen because we have 7 miles of tunnels underneath downtown and sky bridges. You can literally drive from Sugarland to downtown, go to your office and go home and not see another soul.
All right.
That's got to change, because when you see someone out in their public life with their family and you interact with them, that's when you build meaningful relationships. And that's where Houston can get better. But that's where I'm trying to solve it with Cup of Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee shops, pubs, breweries. That's where real connection can really happen if we become intentful about it.
Right. What do you think is a critical element in forging the future in the innovation community from your perspective?
It's a good question. It's a hard question. I think it's by defining our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know how people say, "Oh man, it just happened that way." That's not very good. It's not a very good idea if you want to forge the future. I mentioned this idea of the ecosystem, and elements have to push and pull like gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Gravity's different here in Houston than it is in Denver, because we're in different locations and we're sea level, they're a mile high.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the future and purpose is different based on how strong you define your purpose. So if we want to forge our future, we have to define our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the 2036 moniker is all about for me. And that's what Houston Tech Rodeo is all about. That's what Cup of Joey is all about. That's what the Ion is all about. They've defined the future and forged the future with purpose and with intent. And those are the only ones that actually create a dent in the universe, is the ones that have intent, the ones that have purpose.
Well, I like how long-term you're thinking, 2036 is, I guess it'll be here sooner than we think, but 10 plus years.
Oh man, I know down to the T. My son will be graduating from high school. My daughter will be a junior. World Cup would be come and gone in 2026.
Houston will be the #1 startup ecosystem in the United States.
You heard it right here. This is time-stamped. I actually, hell, you said United States. I'm already thinking the world.
The world, okay.
Galaxy.
Big.
Galaxy. If we're going
Galaxy
to bring people,
that's
to
true.
other,
We're gonna have a spaceport.
Of course. So, and we are the planetary, center for human space travel, because we're human. And so, yeah, I think big, but I'm purposeful and I have intent, and I think that's how you forge the future.
Mm-hmm. So where can someone find you and connect with you?
Easy. I'm a very findable person on purpose. Every Friday, 8:30 to 10:30 at the Ion, I host Cup of Joey.
Okay.
So I invite everybody.
Come on down.
Yeah. And other than that, on LinkedIn, I'm there all the time, and to make connections, and just Houston is my home and I love it, and I'll be here for my entire career.
That's great. So, Joey, one of the things that I like to do is wear different kinds of socks. I don't know if you can tell what kind of socks these are.
What elements are
That's
those?
actually the coffee molecule.
No
it's caffeine,
way. Oh.
caffeine molecule. So I wore my coffee socks just for you, and I have some socks of your own, which says has a lot of coffee stuff on there, but on the bottom says "Bring me some coffee." If you can read this, bring me some coffee. So those are yours.
Oh man,
Wear
that's
them in pride.
awesome.
You don't have any socks on today? I figure you probably need a pair.
Yeah, those socks.
Yeah, there you go.
There
That's
you go.
funny. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I
Thanks for
appreciate
being
it.
on the show.
Thank you.